Hi, I'm Jeff Richards, and welcome to Japan Today Spotlight, where we go deeper into the headlines you know and some you might have missed. When you board an aircraft, you expect the pilot and the crew to be sober. But recent incidents involving JAL pilots have blackened the airline's reputation. Drunk pilots, failed alcohol tests, flights delayed or canceled entirely. Some are even calling this JALcoholic pilots. Why are we even asking if pilots should avoid alcohol before flying? Isn't that obvious? In this week's edition of Japan Today Spotlight, we'll look at the drinking problems plaguing Japan's once iconic airline, what the company is doing about it, and how the government has reacted so far. In May, Japan Airlines announced revenues rose 11.6% to 1.84 trillion yen, about $11.9 billion, for the fiscal year ending March 31st. That was a record high since the company relisted on the Tokyo Stock Exchange in 2012 after nearly going bankrupt. Good news for the airline, but lately, JAL has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. In April 2024, a JAL captain was warned by police in Dallas, Texas for drunken disruptive behavior. His return flight to Japan was canceled. In December, 2 pilots scheduled to fly from Melbourne, Australia to Narita failed pre-flight alcohol tests. Their departure was delayed more than 3 hours. And on August 28th of this year, 3 flights from Hawaii to Japan were delayed. 2 of them by about 18 hours after a 64-year-old captain drank 3 large beers during his layover, then failed tests the next morning. That captain used his testing kit around 60 times, each result showing alcohol. He even changed the dates to make it look as if the tests had been done earlier. By noon on August 28th, he admitted that he drank the day before and said that he was unwell. His scheduled flight to Chubu Airport near Nagoya was delayed 2 hours while a replacement was found. The 2 flights to Haneda in Tokyo were delayed more than 18 hours because backup crews had to be flown in from Japan. In an internal probe, the pilot admitted drinking on about 10 layovers since May. He was fired on September 11th. At 64, it was effectively early retirement, but the damage was done, and it cut deeper because JAL had already vowed to restore trust after the Melbourne case just months earlier. After the Melbourne incident, JAL banned its pilots from drinking during stayovers before return flights. The rules sound strict on paper. 2 alcohol checks within 24 hours before duty, a final screening right before boarding, a watch list of pilots with risky drinking habits. But that system failed. The Hawaii pilot was on the watch list. He slipped through anyway. Now, JAL is asking all its pilots to sign a pledge not to drink 24 hours before flights or during layovers. Critics say it's a weak gesture. This pledge doesn't even spell out punishment for violations. So JAL is talking about raising awareness and holding constructive discussions about pilot discipline. Passengers just want the airline to deliver. In true Japanese corporate fashion, though, the response so far is more about words than actual action. Why aren't these pilots fired the first time they're caught? It's the question passengers and many Japan Today readers ask every time they hear these stories. In Japan, the logic is a little bit different. Corporate culture puts blame on management, not just the individual. Executives are expected to take responsibility for failing to prevent mistakes. After the Hawaii case, JAL executives simply bowed in apology and cut their own pay. President Mitsuko Totori will lose 30% of her salary for 2 months. 2 flight operations chiefs, 20% for 1 month. All other directors, 10%. These cuts are temporary and symbolic. They satisfy regulators and the media, but they don't change pilot behavior. There's no trickle down. Pilots don't feel those cuts. If anything, it shields them because the company can say it has already taken responsibility at the top. So far, only 1 pilot has been dismissed, that 64-year-old captain of the Hawaii case. For the others, no discipline at all has been announced. Instead, JAL says it will hold an emergency discussion with pilots about how to restore trust. So the message is clear. Management performs the theater of sacrifice, while pilots who fail these tests often just keep on flying. On September 10th, the Transport Ministry stepped in again. It reprimanded JAL, saying its employees lacked basic consideration for safety. President Totori and other executives were summoned to the ministry and ordered to produce new measures fast. This was not the first warning. It was the second reprimand in less than a year. The first came last December with a formal business improvement order. But these government actions are also part of the ritual. Reprimands, meetings, promises to do better, rinse and repeat until the next scandal. To be fair, JAL isn't the only airline with this problem. In 2019, 2 United pilots were arrested in Scotland for failing breath tests before a flight to the US. In 2016, 2 Air Transat pilots were charged in the UK for being intoxicated before departure. And other carriers in Europe and North America have faced similar scandals. The difference? For most of them, these are rare, isolated cases. For JAL, it's been one after another. Multiple scandals in less than 1 year. Government reprimands and polite pledges won't be enough. Temporary pay cuts and emergency discussions don't fix a lax and unenforced safety culture. If pilots can drink, tamper with tests, and still keep flying, then Japan Airlines hasn't solved its problem. It's protecting its image more than its passengers, and that's the real issue here. It won't go away until accountability reaches the cockpit. So what is the right approach? Should this be zero tolerance, 1 strike, and you're out? Or is there any room for reform and rehabilitation before a pilot is allowed back in the cockpit? Thanks for watching Japan Today Spotlight, and from the Japan Today newsroom here in Tokyo, I'm Jeff Richards. See you next time.